Hey there, everybody. This is Taylor Holmes from THiNC. I've come in here to talk to you today about Glasshouse. I know some of you are not a huge fan. I'm not a huge fan of you. Just kidding. Just kidding. I love you all. You guys are awesome. Um, but you're missing. I think some of you are missing the point on Glasshouse. So I just wanted to talk through it a little bit more. I know I posted a walkthrough of it on the site, but I also wanted to just chat about it a little bit um, here. The acting was meh, but the story was really quite good, and I enjoyed the nuances to it. There's several layers going on. There's the myth, there's the memories, there's the pandemic, right? But before we get there, this is a Australian movie. Um, I believe it was written and directed by Kelsey Egan. Yeah, Kelsey Egan. She actually did stunts for Mad Max, the most recent Fury Road. Yeah, Fury Road. Um, so I don't know if she was like the stunt director or just did like was just a stunt man. Like I don't know. I don't know. But but she that like for me once I learned that that was very interesting to me. Why? Because you've got women, Victorian glass house. You have um, this perfect paradise and all of this horrible violence, right? Just it was, they were basically cannibals almost, and they didn't eat the humans, but they basically were hardcore, right? So, so you look at it from that perspective, and it's like, was this a window into Kelsey Egan's psyche or mentality of what she loves and how the lens through which she views the world. Um, which a writer always gives you that view. But once the ending is clear and it's peeled back as to what is actually going on here, the like we have no idea how long this global memory shred pandemic has been going on. We don't have any concept. It could have been going on for millennia. We don't know. They've forgotten what animals are. They've forgotten kangaroos in Australia, right? That's a pretty that's a pretty significant detail to forget. Um, so we're talking generational pandemic of global forgetting. And I think metaphorically, if any time a movie deals with forgetting, deals with memory, deals with the mind state, they're actually wanting to talk about this philosophical idea of is it better to be wise and in pain or to be ignorantly blissful, right? Like which of those dichotomies, which of those worlds are better than the other? Wisdom obviously comes with pain, right? Seeing truth for what it is painful. Knowing about global poverty is painful. Knowing about child mortality rates, painful. Knowing about disease and famine, painful. Experiencing it, personally painful. But if you can avoid pain by forgetting, that's an interesting concept. It's one used in a bunch of movies. Spotless Mind, right? Not Memento. Memento, right? Yeah, Memento. Where he's using his deficit, his flaw as his greatest asset. and he uses it to wield judgment and wield arbitrary revenge, right? But he also uses it to forget his wife. He uses it to forget that they were attacked and she was murdered. I mean, I don't want to go into that movie, but I'd love to discuss whether she's alive or dead. My favorite theory is that she's alive. But it's an interesting concept, right? Whenever a movie deals with forgetting, they're talking about sin, they're talking about morality, they're talking about forgiveness, they're trying to assuage guilt. And they're not asking for forgiveness or penance, they're trying to avoid it. And forgetting is just a metaphor. Forgetting is just a metaphor for drugs or sin, like other vices that will remove, right? Will remove, that pain. And we do that today, right? We avoid pain and remembering a lot of ways. I have my own vices that I, go to, and you do too, whether you want to admit it or not. It's kind of arbitrary. You have them. The day I realized that I was reading, 30 books a month, and I was doing it to forget or to push away or to avoid life. That was eye-opening. And because books are good, books are never bad. Books, reading and knowledge and intelligence and wisdom, that can't be bad, right? But it obviously was, for me anyway. But regardless, whether you get hooked on, like, I don't know, Oxycontin or crack or alcohol, well, it doesn't matter what your drug of choice is. That is a stand-in for forgetting, right? It's a stand-in for the shred, which is really cool, interesting, like the way they played that out, and notice how the shred actually was used as a weapon, a selective drug, a selective tweezer for a specific memory. Sure, Gabe had this sort of general amnesia and general dumbness, but when you look at like Evie, she used it at specific moments to go silly or dumb about a certain idea and still recognized other people. That could have been bad acting, could have been bad directing, but she was using it as a scalpel as opposed to a bludgeon. And that's an interesting nuance to that, right? There are other sci-fi movies that talk about, excising memories or trying to avoid reality or going into a VR, right? Where they're actively trying to remove. That would be kind of cool. That seems like that would be a fun list of movies, like a list of movies on forgetting. I'm gonna have to write that down. I think that would be a fun exercise to go look for. But regardless, the movies that deal specifically with memory, they're not dealing with memories. They're dealing with pain. They're dealing with sin. They're dealing with forgiveness, right? Should we make atonement for that mistake? Should I ask for forgiveness, or can I make it go away by acting like it didn't exist? Another side of this story, so let's just throw that idea away. What if this is just a movie about a modern day group of sirens? Like, you have these women that have utilized men for their own purposes. The Lucas of the Glasshouse universe are utilized for one thing only, and that is making sure that their spawn don't die off, right? And the women are enticing. The gardens are green and lush in a world of brown. They have created this glorious pool of tranquility and perfection, and men are going to come. Like one of the most unrealistic things is like why they only saw three or four or five, people that they had to defend from. You would think they would come. Maybe they did more earlier, right? Because if that was the only greenery in that area, one detail that I kind of got hooked on was like how you never saw them filling their tanks for going outside, and you never saw them refurbishing, like resetting those masks. They can't just go with a thing, they would pass out. So they have to, and there was kind of this hint that they had these tanks, but you never really saw them. And are they pulling the oxygen from the glass house? They obviously weren't pulling it from the trees nearby. They had to contain it somehow. So they probably had to pull the oxygen in the glass house and put it into, and the oxygen had to be created fresh. So basically they had this biosphere that they had to sustain, which even brilliant minds like NASA haven't figured out. So you have to throw reality completely out the window for this movie. It doesn't make sense to consider it scientifically. Lisa, you your comment, you mentioned the bees and the pollination, etc. It's an intriguing idea, though, that they've set up this little lake, this little pond that the sirens live in, that are just there to attract men for their glue, right? They become glue products, and their tendons become thread, and they use everything in the human that's useful. It's a fascinating idea. And I think when the reveal appears that there have been many Lucas that have come and gone, and Evie accidentally killed the Luca that left and came back, and that is the pain she's wanting to flush, right? That's the pain she's wanting to avoid. When it's clear that there have been many Evies, when it's clear there's been many bees. We never got a hint that there have been more mothers. But I guess B becomes mother 2, right? Maybe mother 3, mother X, right? So it's a fascinating idea that we're talking about here, in that the generational hiding and avoidance of pain, and that not only has there been more than one Lucas, but the main Luca has been killed. Not only has there been more than one daughter, there have been multiples, and there's probably choices that have been made along the way to keep the numbers down to 4 or 5, and to live off of a small community that can the system can keep alive. That is the one truth. That is the big truth that they're all avoiding, is that they're regularly killing each other for replacements or accidents or whatever it might be, and this imagined reality of bliss is all false, right? Which is life, right? That is life. That is what life is all about, right? If you believe that you have it made, or you've created stability, or that you have been forgiven of these sins by forgetting, you're lying to yourself. And that's the fascinating takeaway for me. Love this movie, not because of the technical precision, not because of the acting, but because of the ideas that it brings out, and the interesting concepts that it pushes. And I think it's a worthwhile little flick. And I'm glad you guys found it, and were able to share it with me. Going forward, I've been actually going back through the spotlights, and there's been a lot of movies that we've left on the table there. I have anyway, and that I haven't seen, like Drive My Car. I noticed that was featured in the spotlight like, I don't know, 10 ago or something, on 40 or something, or maybe even earlier, 35. And I just missed it. So I've tried to been going back through the list of spotlights. I think Chris even might have a list of them all. But regardless, there's some really fascinating movies in there that I'm intrigued to go find and watch. Like, for example, Marguerite, Queen of the North. That looks cool. Bad Luck Bang Bang, or Looney Porn trailer like that. I mean, Looney Porn, that looks cool. And Operation Fortune, I haven't seen that. That's Audrey Plaza, right? She's awesome. So I don't know. We'll see if I might go back through some of those. Anyway, I hope you guys are all doing well and having fun finding movies. Make sure you bring them to me and don't hold them selfishly to yourself. Thanks, guys, and see you next time. Bye.